This is the Analysis in Change with Nathan Williams and Neil Kieran.
Welcome to Analysis in Chains. I'm Nathan Williams. Joining me today is Humayun Sheikh, the CEO and co-founder of Fetch.AI. Fetch.AI is a framework for multi-agent system deployment. Essentially, it's a framework on blockchain for AIs to do business with each other. Humayun, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nathan, for inviting us. Pleasure to be here.
So, tell us a little bit about Fetch.AI.
Yes, I mean, if you look at really what's happening in the AI world, and if you look at what's happening in a decentralization world, what is kind of missing is how do you monetize machine learning in AI, and how do you bring it to the masses so that they can actually benefit everybody rather than just some big corporates. So we're building the framework and the technology and the tools to enable that to happen.
When you talk about this decentralization so that it's not just held by the big corporates, what do you mean exactly?
If you look at a human making a decision, an intelligent decision, what happens is that we take use of a lot of predictions. So we predict. So for example, if I need to go step out of the house, what kind of clothes I wear, I will make a prediction based on the information and the knowledge which I have that, let's say, it's going to rain in the next 2 or 3 hours. So I use all those predictions to make a decision. Now, there are several components. One, I need to get access to those predictions somehow. I need to then have intelligence to make that prediction work for me in making the decision. And then, then I actually have to make that decision, and I actually have to carry out an action. So all these three things, they're part of the machine learning and AI kind of structure, whereby how do you create the predictions, how do you bring the data to the predictions, and how do you create the context where all of this is coming about. So to put it all together, it's not an easy task, but it is not also a centralized task because there are so many stakeholders involved which provide data or prediction models or even the intelligence which run the agents.
So if I'm a programmer and I have created sort of an AI unit, maybe a prediction model for the weather for tomorrow, and someone else is the owner of a large amount of data, then we could both go to Fetch.AI, submit that data, that prediction model in exchange for economic value, like tokens that would come off of the system as people purchase it. Is that how sort of the economic value works?
Yes, but there is a little bit more to it. So what happens is that, let's say you've built a prediction model for weather. You have trained it on a data which you probably had. What you now want to do is actually monetize that. So what you could do is you could either deploy that model, and we don't mind this because it's a decentralized space and you could do whichever way you want. So you could probably run your model, let's say, on AWS or any of the others. And then what you could do is you could provide an agent, and you can train the agent to say, okay, if somebody wants a prediction from me about the weather at a certain location and over a 2-hour period, I can provide you that. So you register that with the framework, which is, we call it the open economic framework. So the agent kind of goes on there. It's like a marketplace for predictions. So, and then it registers it, and then other people who would like their agents to make a decision based on that prediction would be looking for that. So what you could do is you could actually monetize your prediction model on a per prediction basis, which is a much more valuable way of monetizing your prediction model.
One of the challenges that any marketplace like this, be it centralized or decentralized, runs into is the classic chicken and egg problem. If you have a wide open marketplace for AI, and people, customers, myself, maybe wants to go and find people to do predictions, there needs to be sort of a marketplace there. How do you seed the marketplace so that there are enough prediction models, that there are enough customers that will go in and buy them?
Actually, if you carry a phone, you have an ability to monetize your predictions. That's what really it boils down to, whereby you incentivize the consumers to provide different things, different predictions, without actually having any much technical knowledge, but you can actually reward them. And in our case, it'll be via the tokens. So that's kickstarts, because you can actually start earning money from your data and your sector knowledge. So you can do that, and then that we can do by approaching all the developers, speaking to them, inviting them to join our network, and doing meetups to bring them closer. But then on the other side, you have the more corporate side of things. So, for example, we're working in the automotive sector with a alliance called the Mobi Alliance, which is a collaboration of 6 or 7 big automotive manufacturers. And the reason why they want to collaborate is because if you look at your car and the traffic and how that works, although cars are becoming more and more intelligent, what is missing out of all of this is the connectivity between different manufacturers' cars. And when you look at the road, all the cars are not actually connected to each other. And why they haven't managed it yet is because there is no actual incentive model to kind of connect it. So we are then taking the corporates and we're kind of providing them a solution whereby they can collaborate and do a more permission system, fetch system, and then still bring all the value and take all the value from other people and do a collaborative learning effort here.
From my experience with the big corporates, most of them know their businesses very well. They don't want to necessarily learn startup businesses. They would rather work with existing startups. It's much safer that way. And so that's probably a good way of getting these things started.
Indeed, yeah.
I was also sort of wondering, or thinking out loud, I suppose, the fact that it's a bit of a bad market for crypto right now is probably good for businesses such as yours or markets that exist, because there's less of incentive to create your own system and more an incentive for developers to focus on building on existing systems like yours. So a developer might be more incentivized to create AIs and then monetize them on Fetch.AI or something similar, rather than create their own AI blockchain because they can raise 50 million overnight. Those days are gone.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And I think what has been happening in the crypto space is it's rather unfortunate, because everybody just kind of went crazy. And I think as humans, we have a habit of doing that. But I think it brings it back, markets bring it back into kilter. But having said that, I mean, our project is quite, independent yet connected, because it's independent because if you look at what's happening in the whole technology space with the IoT and the machine learning and the AI coming along, the method of doing business, which changed perhaps 20, 30 years ago, is going to change dramatically in the future again, because as more and more autonomous objects are coming online, they need to interact with each other, and they have to have open systems, open connectivity with each other. Different manufacturers need to kind of collaborate and allow them to interact with each other. So, but if you look at what the framework and the structures and the platforms which exist at the moment, that's quite a difficult task. And as more and more data is becoming available, and as more and more complexity is coming amongst these big systems, it's very difficult to run them from a top-down approach. So the better approach is to give these autonomous agents small kind of tasks, which they then collaborate with each other to build bigger and much better things. So, which is kind of what you see in, a flock of birds, or, ants' nests, or, the bees, and, the intelligence within a particular device doesn't have to be huge for it to have a huge impact, economic and technical. On top of that, when you bring the decentralization, this is where the crypto space kind of comes in.
It's interesting. This leads into a big question about decentralization, especially if you or crypto in general is increasingly working with large corporate entities. I've actually said in previous shows that there's a danger that crypto will sort of be co-opted as just another tool to make profit for corporates, and the dream of decentralization is in a way at risk. I'm wondering if corporate involvement to get something like an AI decentralized distribution network started is helpful or dangerous to the cause of decentralization and democratization of AIs?
It's not going to happen overnight. So we have to understand that there is a corporate structure, there's a company structure in the physical world which we have built over hundreds of years. Now, and the reason why that is all evolving into this way that we have at the moment is because that's how the markets have played out. That's what the resources were, the assets were. They all interacted in a way which helped in the evolution of the business, what it is today. Now, what is quite interesting is that, like the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons changed the world in a way, like Google kind of helped the communication side, which brought everybody together. The communication and linking of businesses became a lot cheaper by just bringing this kind of middle interface layer, which enabled all the businesses to kind of interact with it. Now, what is happening is that autonomy is also coming into the whole space. What that means is, although it's not going to happen overnight, there is a push, and there has to be a push because of the way everything is evolving. Now, we do have this danger of the corporate, because you started from different regions, you became countries, now became corporates. Corporates are now more powerful than a lot of countries now. So that is the evolution which was enabled because of where the business was going. Now there is a new phase of business which is coming, which is this autonomy and the interaction between different devices, companies, contexts, people. That's in itself will lead us to this decentralization. What I do have quite a lot of disagreement with is a very narrow based. So, for example, we're going to build a blockchain which enables us to do trading, right? Like there's a lot of banks which are doing that. Now, that I kind of tend to agree with 100%. That's another way of improving efficiency for bigger corporates. That doesn't help anybody because once they've captured that area, customers or consumers are not going to benefit from it. It's the efficiency will get passed to the big corporates. So 100% decentralization is at risk there.
Yes, and that's sort of the mindset that I was addressing. Like with the large corporates going and selling private blockchain solutions built on Hyperledger or what have you. Not to poo-poo Hyperledger too much, but this is sort of the trouble with private blockchains is that it ends up being an efficiency gain for a corporate, and all the benefits stay within the corporate. Yeah.
But I think the corporates also want to this is why Fetch is different, because corporates also want to benefit from the data which exists and the consumers which are with other corporates or customers of other corporates. They want to benefit from it, but they don't want to share their intelligence. Now, what we're saying is that you don't have to. You can actually do a collective collaboration rather than a competitive atmosphere. So I think that in that way, the corporates will start to get used to that. Again, it's like if you look at the big technology corporates at the moment, all of them are actually intermediaries. Now, you can imagine they will get very concerned when you talk about decentralization, because decentralization kills the intermediaries. So if you look at, for example, Uber, Uber is an intermediary which provides a middle platform which just connects a car to a consumer of the car. Now, if it becomes autonomous, Uber will become redundant. That's the way to look at it. And that's why they want to control all the machine learning and AI. So when people say, no, the corporates say, no, we're bringing decentralization to machine learning and we'll open it up for everybody, that's rubbish, because that means you are cannibalizing your own business. So it's like saying Uber is going to make the autonomy into the cars and consumers. What is Uber going to do then in the middle?
I suppose if you think about it, the existing corporate system that we live in is, in a sense, an AI. It's without a computer. It's a system that optimized itself around one parameter, which was maximizing profit, ended up solving a problem of efficiency in production. I guess the question is now, will new AIs and will new blockchain systems also remain focused around this one profit motive, or will we end up seeing other factors come in, such as human empowerment or greater purpose or status or things that aren't purely financial incentives?
Well, I think it will. As I say, I'm a believer that we will evolve into the right way. But I think there's a couple of points which do need to be made here. I mean, we've been offered investment from plenty of corporates and certain specific types of VCs, which we've actually decided not to take because I think that will hamper the decentralization of the Fetch network. So, but one has to be very careful where this whole thing starts. I mean, corporates will say, oh, yes, we want to enable decentralization, but then we'll make an investment and then we'll control which way you go. Projects who are trying to bring about this change have to be quite careful in how they deal with it, because if you get some, profitability maximization kind of partner, and then you kind of become less and less inclined to carry on in the decentralized way of thinking. So I'm in agreement with you, but I think if the framework, the correct framework for people to connect to exists, then it will take care of itself over time.
So it sounds like you're doing something really interesting. How can people get more involved with Fetch.AI going forward?
So we have Telegram channel, we have all the social media channels, we have Twitter channel. We've been pretty quiet in terms of marketing, so we're not making too much of a noise. But we would always encourage developers, people who are more interested in asking more questions and getting connected, to join Telegram channel, visit our website. We have quite a lot of white papers which tell you more about what we're trying to do and the technology as well, and how we're building it. There's, we encourage economists, business specialists, sector-specific specialists to all come and participate with us, because what we're trying to build is quite wide, and we would encourage people to come and speak to us either via email or Telegram channel or any of our social media channels.
It sounds very exciting. I wish you all the best as you continue to develop and go forward. Humayun Sheikh is the CEO and co-founder of Fetch.AI. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for your time.